Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're all doing all right. I certainly am. It's a lovely day out there today. So it's been quite a quiet weekend this weekend, which has been quite welcome because of late I've been quite busy socialising. So yeah, quiet weekend in means lots and lots of music to listen to. So as always, I'm just going to show off what I've been playing over the last couple of days. I've also got a couple of shout outs as well, a few shout outs actually, to be honest with you. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. Right, so first up, played. Great album, this one. This is Lloyd Cole and the Commotions. Debut album, I think it's debut, pretty sure it is, with Rattlesnakes, released on Polydor, UK pressing. Now, quick shout out. First of my shout outs will be to Richard Warwick, because on a recent video, I think it was a week or so ago now, he was showing off one of his auction job lot purchases that he often does, some for his own collection, but a lot of it will go to the record fairs he does. But amongst all the very good stuff that he got in the last video showed, he showed this. And I was like, oh, yeah, I haven't played that for a while. You know, when some things just sort of, go off, you know you've got it and you know you like it, but it just kind of goes off the radar. So I thought, right, okay, I must give that a listen, and listen to it I did. Nice album, really, really nice. I would say it's kind of it's a bit lighter than post-punk, really. It's probably derived from post-punk. You could call it indie, even though it isn't on an independent label. It's on Polydor, it's on a major. But it's typical of the early to mid-'80s. It's really sort of good jangle pop. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. Great tracks. My only gripe is I think the vocals sometimes, not always to my taste, the sort of breathy, kind of croaky vocals, sometimes I think, they kind of suit it, but, I don't always find them that easy on the ear. But they're all right. At the end of the day, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't play it and I wouldn't be showing it here. So, yeah, very, very nice album. Very palatable, very easy on the ear. And the good thing is it's really not expensive or difficult to come by. Ever since I bought this, I only paid £5 for this a few years back for a lovely copy, and I do see it out and about from time to time. So yeah, well worth picking up. So yes, Richard, if you're watching, thank you for your inspiration. Always good to be inspired by other VC members, unwittingly. And same again, another shout out, inspired to listen to this one. So yeah, about a week ago, maybe even a few days, I watched a video, the Vinyl Orchard, Chris, he was just showing off what he'd been listening to of late, much the same as what I'm doing here actually, so a very sort of similar video. And one of the albums he pulled out was this one, and again I was like, oh yeah, I haven't played this for ages. So we got Magazine, The Correct Use of Soap, nice UK pressing on Virgin. Ooh, it's like this matte kind of rustic sleeve on this. Why it's got such a weird title, I don't know. If anyone knows why it's called The Correct Use of Soap, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I really, really, really enjoyed this. I have played Magazine quite recently, but I've kind of focused more on the first two albums. The second one before this was very, very dark. Sounds like a Peter Hamill record. Very, very good indeed. I almost think they went a bit proggy on that one, to be honest. And of course, the first album, Real Life, is regarded as one of the post-punk classics. This one here, still very, very good. It's got more of an upbeat sound, I would say. I don't want to use the terms commercial or poppy. The songs are just livelier, a bit happier, but they've lost none of their edge. It's still a really, really good record, and every track on it was brilliant. It's been a while since I spun it, so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. So once again, without thinking, Chris, thank you for inspiring me. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, guys, switch of room, I'm afraid. Reason being is because I'm sitting out the back and my cat, bless her, kept coming in wanting food, even though she's just been fed, climbing all over the records and being a bit of a nuisance. So I've taken myself into the living room and closed the door. So These things happen. So let's just carry on. Okay, up next, we have got Southern Comfort with Frog City, the debut record. I say the debut record. They did 3 with Ian Matthews under Matthews Southern Comfort, but this is the first one without him. That's a weird old cover, isn't it? It's a single sleeve, this one. But looking at it, it looks like it should really have been a gatefold cover. It's on Harvest, my favourite label. So musically, very, very nice, very, very pleasant. It's kind of folky country rock, really, really exquisite harmonies. It's just a lovely, lovely collection of songs. No kind of real out there prog that you sometimes get on Harvest. So very, very nice indeed. One thing about this record, that's baffled me for some time, ever since I first got it, which was a few years ago now. On side 1, track 5, there is a song called April Lady. Beautiful tune. When I first got this, as soon as I first put it on, I was like, I recognise this song. I know it. Anyway, I realised that it was, there's another version of it out there by a band called Smile. Now, Smile, as some of you may know, were the band that basically developed into Queen. They featured Roger Taylor and Brian May, and this is before Freddie Mercury and John Deacon joined them. And I don't think any of this, I think there are hard copies of the album out there, but it was never released what they recorded, but it is here on YouTube. However, there's a track called April Lady, and it's the same song. What puzzles me about it is for years I knew the Smile track and I was under the impression that it was around in the late 60s, 68, 69. That's when it was recorded. That's when their album was kind of due to come out, if it ever had. Yet we've got this track that was released in 1971 on Southern Comfort's record. However, the song is credited to one of the band members, Carl Barnwell, who's the main songwriter on it. So I'm a bit puzzled. I always thought it was written by members of Smile, whether May, Taylor, I don't know, Tim Staffel, I don't know. But that's not the case. So I don't really know much about the origins of this song. Can anyone shed any light? Now, if I can, I believe both versions, the Southern Comfort and Smile, are on YouTube at the moment. And I will attempt, when I edit this video and upload it, to put links to the video in each so you can have a listen to them both and judge for yourselves. If you've got any information, I'd be very interested to hear. But nevertheless, very nice record, not too pricey, not too rare either. It does turn up from time to time. Right. So, just a moment ago, when I was talking about magazine, I mentioned Peter Hamill, and I'll put a bit of Peter Hamill on. This is from 1975. It's Nadir's Big Chance. Wonderful. I love Peter Hamill at the moment. I'm, listening to him a lot. I've got quite a few of his albums now, and I'm kind of delving more into his catalogue, not just sticking to the early stuff. You see what I just did there? Listen is an exception, not just sticking to the early stuff. This is a fine record. This is absolutely wonderful. Often been described as the first UK punk album by complete accident, whatever you think about it. Although it's not all punky, there are still some very quirky tracks on and some tender ballads as well. But a lot of the tracks are done in a kind of very primitive rock and roll style, shouty. It's well known that John Lydon, a.k.a. Johnny Rotten, was a fan of Peter Hamill and Van der Graaf Generator. Obviously, of course, he fronted. And even went on a radio show as a guest and played some tracks off this record. So I've never heard, the radio show as an archive or anything. But yeah, that's what happened. So may well have been an inspiration for the Sex Pistols. You can certainly hear something in there. It's quite remarkable, sort of, part of musical history, how things pan out. But overall, this is an absolutely beautiful record. It's brilliant from start to finish. Really, really good. A bit like all of Peter Hamill's records. He hasn't, every one that I've got is great. I haven't heard a sort of bad one at all. And he's ever changing. He's like a chameleon, but never loses his kind of credibility, his artistic credibility. As a consequence, despite releasing dozens of records, he's still relatively unknown in the kind of mainstream. I mean, most people you speak to won't know who he is. They may have heard of Van der Graaf Generator as a push, but he's a huge recording artist. But yeah, he's not. People don't know him like they would know Peter Gabriel, David Bowie. Well, they would be like Peter, who just the way things are. But he was successful enough, and there we go. So yeah. Another brilliant one, highly recommended. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Okay, so harking back to my video that I did last week about only listening to the early stuff, I mentioned and actually showed this record by Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from 1988. When I pulled it out last week, I thought, God, I haven't actually played any Iron Maiden for quite some time. So this one stayed out and gave it a spun. A spin, not a spun. What's interesting about this one, as I recall, this is actually my first exposure to Iron Maiden because this record yielded 3 big singles. I did look these up when I was researching this video. And the singles they released on this all made the top 10. I mean, Can I Play With Madness got to number 3. I think they did have some number 1s at some point, didn't they, further down the line? But anyway, I have to look those up. But I can remember when I was getting really interested in sort of popular music in the charts, it's before I actually became a record collector. I remember Can I Play With Madness and The Evil That Men Do being in the charts. And amongst what was out in 1988, which it was in the UK, was top heavy on Stock Aitken and Waterman and kind of, a lot of emerging electronic stuff. They were just so out of place, these singles. Yet the singles by In Public were sort of lapping them up. I don't know if they were sort of branching out beyond their fans or whether Iron Maiden's fans were just so loyal they would buy the singles as well as the albums. I know Iron Maiden singles always contain kind of exclusive B-sides and live versions, so they do kind of give value for money. But yeah, they just did so well. But it was, as I say, they were so out of place when you were looking at the sort of listening to the chart rundowns and things. It's a weird thing. But anyway, yeah, I love playing this. It's brilliant. It's a big old production. Without being, Iron Maiden are never going to be overly polished or selling out. But it's a real layered sound on this one. There's, they actually really bring in some great vocal harmonies, and it's just thundering along, isn't it? I mean, you've got a thunderous rhythm section, and at the end of the day, I mean, they're quite influenced. They're a heavy metal band, but they were very influenced from prog rock, so they've got really sort of great and interesting arrangements, and they've got some, they do their lengthy tunes. They're great. They're absolutely great. As I mentioned before, if you saw my previous video, I don't actually go beyond this record. I've got all the studio albums from before and like them very much. But this one is a firm favourite of mine out of what I've got. Recommended. I would say they're cheap, but I think Iron Maiden albums, the original ones anyway, they're kind of creeping up in price. They're going to sort of 25, 30, 40 even for decent copies. But I paid about £3 for this about 10, 15 years ago. Yet another band at the time, you couldn't give them away. No one was interested, and then the vinyl revival hit, and bang, they're worth money. Strange. Who would have thought? Right, next up we've got Vertigo Swell. This is Juicy Lucy, second album called Lie Back and Enjoy It. This popped into my head quite recently. The original poster sleeve. Do you know what? And I'm not going to get the whole poster out to show you because it's going to be difficult. If I can find an image on Google I'll try and edit it in. If you don't see it, then I haven't found it. It's as simple as that. But yeah, this is original UK Vertigo swell. Lovely, 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 and very, very tidy copy. The vinyl is absolutely pristine, this one. This is not a bad record, but it's not brilliant. I haven't played it for a while, and I kind of understand why, if I'm honest with you. Their first record from 1969, the second record to come out on Vertigo was, I think most people know it, just called Juicy Lucy, is brilliant. It's really heavy, bluesy, it's kind of ballsy, raunchy. It's kind of got a real, just, distorted sound to it. It's a real sort of hot mix on the record, and it just sounds great, really got kind of energetic. But this one is so much more laid back. It's not a bad record. I mean, I've had a lineup change, completely different singer. There's Paul Williams here, who's a fantastic singer. He's brilliant, don't get me wrong. But it's just not as good as the first. It really isn't. I mean, it has its moments, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad record by any means, But it's just one of those ones where it's just not as good as the debut, and that seems to happen an awful lot. Sort of certainly back in this era, a lot of people, they sort of put all their energy and resources into the debut, and the second album becomes very difficult. But very nice to have nonetheless. It's a nice and collectible, not too different. I mean, it is a bit on the pricey side, but it's not one of the ridiculous swell Vertigos that's going to set you back hundreds upon hundreds, even thousands of pounds. You can still get this for single figures, a decent copy if you're not single, double figures. That's what I meant to say. If you look out for it, it's not particularly rare. So it's all right. Juicy Lucy, always good to check these out. Right, the final album. Here it is. Now, I did a video a few videos ago, where I visited the record fair in Fareham, my last record fair video. One of the albums I bought was this. It's an upgrade copy. It's Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes. When I made that video, I remember distinctively saying that I could honestly do a video of this. It deserves its own video. And to be honest with you, I considered doing it. However, I thought I've spun it and I'll talk about it here. Now, I'm not going to go into the background of this record. Funny enough, there was an entire video made about it only a few days ago by Barry at Classic Album Review. He did a video about it, which kind of went through the background and his thoughts and opinions about it. Now, I'm not going to do a better video than him because he's a real wordsmith. The way he describes things are great. So I will put a shout out to Barry. Thank you for the inspiration. And also, if you want really amazing further watching about the background of this, I recommend the channel by Rael NYC, who does these incredible documentaries, mainly on Yes and Genesis, but a few other prog bands from the era. And they are worthy of being just picked up and televised. They're incredible. So again, in the description, have a little look if you haven't done. Anyway, so I spun this one. For years and years and years, I've owned another copy of this, a lesser copy, and I've had a difficult relationship with it, if I'm honest with you. When I first bought it, I just didn't get it. I was like, what is this all about, really? But I have stuck with it, and it is kind of slowly growing on me, but I don't think it's ever going to grow on me like certain records have. And we're going back sort of over a period of years. What can I say about it? It's such a strange record. I mean, for a start, a double album with just 4 tracks. The thing is about Yes, who I do like the early stuff. Up to this point, their music had such focus and real kind of clarity to it. They were a really sort of, punchy, clear sounding band. I mean, they're undeniably great on their instruments. They really were. That was what was so great about Yes. They were real, they were going on towards, you probably could say they were virtuoso. I mean, Steve Howe on guitar is incredible. Bill Bruford on drums, although he didn't play on this, absolutely wonderful. This album, to me, loses that kind of clarity. It's hazy. It's kind of just sometimes overly dreamy, really. And the thing about the kind of lengthy pieces, which are, ranging between sort of 18 to 21 minutes in length, they kind of lack the flow that I would expect any track to have, any track like that to have. When their album before, Close to the Edge from 1972, the title track of that, Close to the Edge, took up all of side one. It's about 18, 19 minutes long. And that track itself seems to, it just flows well. When there's a change in it, it just seems to sort of be logical. It seems to happen at the right time. It's very, very similar to kind of what Pink Floyd have done as well over the years. If you listen to a track like Echoes from Meddle, that's a side long, that's over 20 minutes, and everything just happens, everything seems to sort of happen for a reason. One thing leads into another very nicely at the right time. It just flows beautifully. The tracks on this just seem to be a load of very good ideas and good melodies just kind of patched randomly together at very, very unpredictable points. And I sort of can't work it out. You can be sort of sitting there, you put it on and sort of, be getting into this bit, and then all of a sudden it will just stop and it will just be thrown away and something else will come in. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And it is just brimming with good ideas. It's just, to me, it's not terribly well executed. It almost sounds like, and this is going to sound sacrilegious, and obviously this is not what Yes we're all about. It sounds like they had a load of good kind of ideas for songs and maybe should have just put an album out of 3 or 4 minute songs for a change. I know that sounds, for Yes, that is ridiculous. That's not what they're all about. But it's an interesting record, and don't get me wrong, I do like it. It's not my best, nowhere near my best. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't ever play it. I wouldn't have bothered buying an upgrade copy. I probably I wouldn't talk about it now. But it's just such a strange record, and it's just not very easy to digest. I don't know what more I can sort of say about it. But having said that, if you haven't heard it, it is very, very interesting. But if you played this one for the first time, don't expect to sort of get into it immediately. It takes listen after listen after listen to really sort of appreciate it, because there's so much going on. There are so many different melodies and sections to actually get into. And there were certain parts of this record, I'm like, it's like I've never heard it before. I didn't, but then again, sometimes that's a good thing if you're hearing things that you've not heard before and, you hear something new every time. But it's, I don't know. I've always said, at best, this record pushes all the boundaries of what prog rock can do. At its worst, it is the catalyst for the reason that punk had to happen. It's over excess, over the top. Things have gone too far. I can't say too much more about it. As I say, I'm not going to go into the concept of the record, which I think personally think is a bit of that, a bit out there anyway. But it is what it is. But I can't stress enough, I do still like this record off. It's so interesting, and I will play it again. But yeah, I'm just giving my thoughts on it. That's what I'm here to do. So that's what I've done. Let me know, of course, as always, in the comments, what you think of this one. Always lovely to hear from you. So I've been rambling a bit on this one. I think this one's gone on a little bit longer than some of these. So if you've stayed to this point, thank you very much indeed. That's all from me. Apologies for the confusion, scenery change midway through. These things happen, don't they? This is why we have the power of magic editing, isn't it? But right, until the next time, take it easy. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I will see you again soon for a future video. Take it easy. So yeah, I recognise sort of the work on his records. Purse, no, you can't be here, my love.